Hi there, future teacher. Welcome to your study guide for the ILTS 230 Early Childhood Special Education Exam. This video is a refresher for the key information you need to know to pass. We will cover the first two sub-areas of the exam in depth: understanding students with disabilities and assessing students, and developing individualized programs. These two sub-areas together make up 40% of your total exam score, so let's make every minute count. Before we dive in, we put together a free study guide workbook that goes along with this video. It has all the key terms, comparison tables, practice questions, and space for your own notes. Grab your free copy from the link in the description. This video is presented by TeacherPreps.com. Our full exam prep for the ILTS 230 includes a complete study guide covering all 5 sub-areas, full-length timed practice tests that match the real exam format, vocabulary exercises, and constructed response practice. It's free to get started. Alright, that was our plug. For the rest of this video, it's go time. Grab your pen and paper. Let's start with the exam format. The ILTS 230 has 100 multiple-choice questions, and you get 3 hours and 15 minutes to complete them, plus a 15-minute tutorial at the start. That works out to about 195 minutes of testing time, giving you roughly 117 seconds, or just under 2 minutes, per question. That is generous compared to many certification exams, so use that extra time to carefully read each scenario. The passing score is 240 on the ILTS scale. The exam is divided into 5 sub-areas. Subarea 1, Understanding Students with Disabilities, is worth 20%. Subarea 2, Assessing Students and Developing Individualized Programs, is also 20%. Subarea 3, Supporting Development and Learning, is the largest at 34%. Subarea 4, Working in a Collaborative Learning Community, is 13%. And Subarea 5, Foundations and Professional Practice, is the final 13%. In this video, we will deep dive into Subareas 1 and 2. Let's begin with Subarea 1, Understanding Students with Disabilities. This subarea is worth 20% of your exam and covers 3 big areas: developmental processes, types and characteristics of disabilities, and curriculum planning for young children with disabilities. On test day, expect questions that ask you to identify typical versus atypical development and to match disability characteristics with appropriate instructional strategies. First, developmental processes. You need to know the 5 major domains: cognitive, physical, motor, communication, and social-emotional. Typical development follows a predictable sequence, but the rate varies among children. Atypical development means a child is significantly behind age-level expectations in 1 or more domains. Dual-language learners may appear delayed in English, but this is not a disability. It is a normal part of acquiring 2 languages. Play serves critical developmental functions. Functional play builds motor skills. Constructive play develops problem-solving. Dramatic play supports social-emotional growth. Jot this down. If you see a question about supporting a young child's overall development, play-based approaches are almost always part of the correct answer. Also know that trauma and chronic stress can cause regression in previously mastered skills and difficulty with self-regulation. Next, disability types. Under IDEA, there are 13 disability categories. For this exam, focus on the most relevant to early childhood. Intellectual disability involves limitations in both intellectual functioning and adaptive behavior. Autism spectrum disorder is characterized by deficits in social communication and restricted, repetitive behaviors. Speech or language impairment includes articulation disorders, fluency disorders like stuttering, and receptive or expressive language delays. Developmental delay is a category for children ages 3 through 9 who show delays in 1 or more domains, but do not yet have a specific diagnosis. Key distinction for test day: emotional disturbance involves persistent patterns that affect educational performance, while behavioral disorders may not meet that threshold. The third piece of Subarea 1 is curriculum planning for young children with disabilities. Developmentally appropriate practice, or DAP, is the foundation. DAP means instruction that is age-appropriate, individually appropriate, and culturally appropriate. The curriculum should address both developmental domains like cognitive and motor skills and functional or adaptive skills like self-care, communication, and social interaction. Research-based practices are essential. Look for strategies backed by evidence, such as naturalistic teaching, embedded instruction, and activity-based intervention. Assistive technology ranges from low-tech tools like picture communication boards to high-tech devices like speech-generating devices. On test day, if a question asks about supporting a child's access to the curriculum, assistive technology is frequently the correct answer because it removes barriers without lowering expectations. Let's try a practice question. A 3-year-old child in a preschool program has been identified with a developmental delay in communication. The child uses single words but rarely combines 2 words together. Which instructional approach would be most effective for supporting this child's language development? A. Providing structured drill sessions focused on repeating 2-word phrases. B. Embedding language models during naturally occurring classroom routines and play. C. Assigning the child to work independently with a language-building computer app. D. Waiting for the child to demonstrate readiness before introducing new language forms. Take a moment to think about your answer. The correct answer is B. Embedding language models during naturally occurring classroom routines and play. This is an example of naturalistic teaching, which is considered best practice for young children with communication delays. Embedding language opportunities into everyday activities like snack time, circle time, and dramatic play gives the child meaningful context to hear and practice language. Option A relies too heavily on drill, which is not developmentally appropriate for a 3-year-old. Option C isolates the child, and young learners need social interaction for language growth. Option D takes a passive approach that delays intervention when the child has already been identified as needing support. Now let's move to Subarea 2. Assessing students and developing individualized programs. This subarea is also worth 20% of your exam and covers 3 areas: assessment types and procedures, using assessment data for instruction, and IEP and IFSB planning. These topics are heavily tested because assessment drives every decision in special education. Let's start with assessment types. Screening is a brief process to identify children who may need further evaluation. Screening is not a diagnosis. It flags children for deeper assessment. The response to intervention model, or RTI, uses a multi-tiered approach. Tier 1 is core instruction for all students. Tier 2 is targeted small group intervention. Tier 3 is intensive, individualized support. MTSS is a broader framework that includes RTI plus social-emotional and behavioral needs. Know the difference between formal and informal assessments. Formal assessments are standardized and norm-referenced. Informal assessments include observations, checklists, and portfolios. They provide contextualized data about how a child performs in natural settings. Critical rule for test day: all assessments must be culturally and linguistically appropriate. Next, using assessment data to guide instruction. Once you have assessment results, you interpret them to make instructional decisions. Eligibility determination has specific legal requirements under IDEA. No single assessment can be used to determine eligibility. Multiple measures across multiple settings are required. Assessment must cover all areas of suspected disability. Authentic assessment is a key concept. It means observing children in natural environments during typical activities. For example, observing a child during free play to assess social communication skills is authentic assessment. Progress monitoring means collecting data at regular intervals to determine whether an intervention is working. If a child is not making adequate progress, the team adjusts the intervention, not the goal. Families play a central role in assessment. They provide developmental history, share observations from home, and participate in interpreting results. On test day, if a question asks about the most important source of information about a young child's functioning, family input is almost always part of the best answer. The third part of Subarea 2 is IEP and IFSB planning. An IFSB is an individualized family service plan for children birth through age 2. An IEP is an individualized education program for children ages 3 through 21. The key difference: IFSBs are family-centered and include family outcomes, while IEPs are student-centered and focus on educational goals. Every IEP must include present levels of performance, measurable annual goals, special education services, accommodations, and the extent of participation in general education. The least restrictive environment principle requires children with disabilities be educated alongside their non-disabled peers to the maximum extent appropriate. Transition planning for early childhood means planning moves from early intervention to preschool at age 3 and from preschool to kindergarten. Here is another practice question. An early childhood special education team is developing an IEP for a 4-year-old child with autism spectrum disorder. The child currently attends an inclusive preschool classroom. Which factor should be the team's primary consideration when determining the child's placement? A. The availability of a self-contained special education classroom in the district. B. The severity of the child's disability compared to other children in the program. C. The supplementary aids and services that could support the child in the general education setting. D. The preference of the general education teacher regarding classroom composition. Think about which principle drives placement decisions. The correct answer is C. The supplementary aids and services that could support the child in the general education setting. This directly reflects the least restrictive environment requirement under IDEA. Before considering removal from the general education classroom, the team must first determine what supports, accommodations, and modifications could enable the child to participate meaningfully. Option A focuses on what is available rather than what is appropriate. Option B compares children, which is not how placement decisions are made. Option D centers teacher preference rather than the child's legal right to LRE. Great work covering Subareas 1 and 2. You now have a solid foundation in understanding students with disabilities and assessment and individualized programming. But here is the thing. Those 2 subareas are only 40% of your exam. You still need Subarea 3, supporting development and learning, which is the largest section at 34%. You also need Subarea 4, working in a collaborative learning community, at 13%, and Subarea 5, foundations and professional practice, at 13%. That is 60% of your exam that we have not covered yet. To pass, you need all 5 subareas. The complete study guide covering all 5 subareas, plus full-length timed practice tests, is available right now at TeacherPreps.com. Link in the description.